Hey guys, welcome back to the channel helping you earn more, spend less, and invest the difference. Now, helium mining has become wildly popular and lucrative, with a single device netting usually somewhere between $75 to $100 per month on the low end, up to $1,000 or more per month with a prime setup. For this reason, people are wanting to expand and set this up more like a business than a hobby. Obviously, most people start mining by getting a device set up in their attic or rooftop, and maybe you have a few friends or family members that will let you set up a device in their homes. But what if you want to go big? And I mean really big. How can we turn this into a legitimate business model that will easily replace our full-time jobs? So currently I have over 60 miners set up, and at today's prices I am earning well into the 5 figures per month, and I operate out of several different towns near where I live, because when you're doing this as a business, these devices can be placed pretty much anywhere in the nation. And honestly, the hardest part is just getting my hands on new Bobcat 300s, as everyone is out of stock. First off, if you plan on turning this into a real business of any significant scale, I highly recommend setting up a company as an LLC. In most states, this is pretty easy to do. Obviously, consult your own professionals as far as business structures and tax implications, but I really like the idea of an LLC. Reason being is that these devices are being installed in other people's homes or at business locations. Homes worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. While extremely rare, what if your device started a fire, or the antenna on the roof got struck by lightning and caused all kinds of damage? Any electronics outside has at least a small % chance of getting water inside, which could short things out and cause sparks. Is an LLC overkill? Maybe. Probably. But I'd rather have a little frustration initially on getting things set up and know that I'm protected on the back end if anything freaky should happen. If you want to skip this step, then fine, but I highly suggest at least seeing how easy or difficult it is in your particular state to create and maintain an LLC before making your decision. Next up, have a contract available. It doesn't have to be anything special. You can just type it up as a Word doc and just spell it out in plain, clear English what each person is expected to do. You don't need any fancy lawyer jargon or anything like that. Just keep it simple. Some things to include is that the owner of the facility will be required to provide electrical power and internet capabilities, physical access to the device if you need to make any repairs or upgrades, etc. You, in turn, will be required to pay a regular monthly fee for being allowed to host your device at their location. Now, there is no magic number for a fee. It's all about negotiating. I have devices installed where I pay about $20 a month. I also have devices where I pay $100 per month. But that particular device is in a super prime location, earning me a boatload more money every month. Now, I've seen some people negotiate the rates as a percentage of earnings or as a flat dollar rate. Personally, I don't like the idea of a percentage of earnings, as it makes monthly payments a little bit more cumbersome, as you actually have to do math and figure out how much you owe someone every single month. And while some people will just take your word on what your income was and thus what their split should be, others are going to want to see proof, which makes things just more complicated still. I like a flat fee based in dollars. It's easy, your partners understand it. The only downside is if you're paying a high monthly fee and then the price of helium suddenly drops significantly, you may not be earning much money that month, if anything at all. And lastly, make sure that your contract specifies that you can cancel the contract at any time and for any reason. Mostly because, like I said, if the price of helium tanks for prolonged periods of time, you don't want to be locked into a contract where you're paying high monthly fees if you aren't really earning much in return. If you're installing the device at a friend or family member's house, always install the device in the attic. It's one thing to drill holes in your roof and run cables and an ugly antenna on your personal roof, but don't do that to friends and family. Just keep things simple and put it in the attic. Plus, a lot of HOAs may limit what you can put on rooftops anyway. Next up, some electronics glitch out and stop working, and more often than not, simply rebooting the device fixes everything. But that's not always easy to do when your device is across town or in another town, because you're doing this as a business and don't necessarily have convenient access to all of your devices. For this reason, I highly recommend setting up your device using a smart plug. Now, personally, I use the Wise plug, which can be bought on Amazon. You can get a 4-pack for about 40 bucks, so like, I don't know, 10 bucks per plug. Yes, there are cheaper options and brands available, but I really like the quality of these specific brands of plugs. So these plugs go into the outlet, and then your Bobcat then gets plugged into the smart plug. When you're setting up your miner for internet connection, you're also going to set up these plugs on the same Wi-Fi internet connection. This way you can use their app on your cell phone to manually turn on and off power to that outlet from anywhere in the world. So if I notice a device isn't working for whatever reason, I can go to the app, turn the power to that device off for a moment, and then turn it back on. This effectively forces a hard reboot and will fix the overwhelming majority of problems that electronics will ever face. This can be an absolute game changer from a maintenance perspective. If you're interested in buying a smart adapter or some of these smart plugs, I'll have an Amazon link down below. Lastly, and probably what most people are actually interested in, is how do I actually find my locations? Most people run out of friends and family relatively quick, so how do you scale up to 20, 50, or 100 miner locations? Well, the first thing I do is look at a map on Hotspotty and see where a good theoretical location might be. Oftentimes you can find pockets in the suburb areas where there's an empty hex surrounded by several miners in other nearby hexes. Ideally, I want to fill in the gaps on the map. I don't necessarily want to be the third or fourth miner operating in the same hex and get significantly diminished rewards. I mean, I'll do it if I can find a fantastic location, but first and foremost, I want to fill in the gaps and get those full 1.0 green rewards. People in city centers might earn $100 a month due to competition, but prime locations in the suburbs can be $500 to $1,000 or more per month if you can get a good spot. So I'm driving around these areas of the map looking at business buildings that hopefully are 2+ stories tall or sit on a hill for some elevation for the antenna. If I'm down to my last few miners, I'll be much more selective on where my locations are. But if I just got a big new shipment in, I'm just looking to get these devices out there and going. Anything halfway decent that I can get, I'll stick a miner at that location. I'm looking for businesses that will have easy access to internet, preferably with an existing Wi-Fi system in place. Once I found a good target, I simply go talk to the owner or manager. Now, before I go further, I should mention that everything about this is 100% completely legal, but in some instances there may be some ethical gray areas. Now, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a philosopher, I'm just some dude on the internet telling you what I do, and all information provided is for entertainment purposes only. Now, yes, all of this, like I said, is legal, so it's not like you're going to get in trouble, but oftentimes the person that you talk to, the manager, the assistant manager, they're not the same as the owner of the business, and so theoretically the owner could come back later and tell you to stop. If that happens, not a big deal, but chances of this ever happening are almost none. Anyway, back on topic. Find the manager, assistant manager, owner, someone with some sort of authority, and give them your sales pitch. I usually have a flyer with the device specs and other relevant information that shows that this device will only cost like $2 to $3 per year in electricity to run and doesn't hijack their internet or anything crazy like that. As well as the fact that you are providing a community service by providing connection access to these Internet of Things devices. And I ask if I can simply set up a device on their rooftop for a monthly fee. Now, I do get a fair amount of no's, but I also get a lot of yeses. Personally, I found that big chain retailers and fast food / restaurant style businesses are typically the easiest to land because oftentimes the manager or assistant manager is some kid in his 20s, and honestly, he doesn't care what you do. The only thing that he cares is he going to get in trouble from corporate, and is he going to get paid every month? Now, if this person is hesitant, I ask if he would think twice if I plugged my cell phone into an outlet to help it charge while using their free Wi-Fi. They always say they wouldn't care if I plugged in a cell phone, and then once they do this, I proceed to say that, well, this device uses significantly less resources, both electricity and bandwidth for your Wi-Fi. And by allowing me to do this, you're gonna make a free $25 per month or whatever it is that we negotiate, as long as this device is up and running. Most times, these assistant managers or managers, they just wanna earn some free cash for doing nothing. They do not care what you do. They don't care about the building. They don't care about the company. They just want to get paid. So more often than not, I get a yes. For the install, I simply go up to the roof. Either the employee can grant me roof access if it's from inside the building, or a lot of buildings just have a ladder system somewhere on the outside of the building. Go on up, do your thing. Now, a few points: I always use a tripod system to hold my antenna at business locations so that I don't need to drill into the siding of roofs or anything crazy like that. I don't want to permanently alter their building in any way. So a tripod setup and maybe some sandbags over the legs to help keep everything in place in the event of heavy winds works perfect. It's fast setup and it's fast tear down if for whatever reason I was asked to move my devices. But like I said, currently, I've not had anybody request that I remove my device. For electrical power, there's almost always, at least in my geographic area, there's always a rooftop air conditioner / heater combo. These things are massive, and they always have a standard electrical outlet on the side of them. If for whatever reason there isn't an outlet on the roof, there should certainly be some outlets on the side of the building by all of the circuit breaker panels and that kind of stuff. Use one of those and run a black extension cord up to the roof. Usually there's already some piping and cords going to the roof, so just zip tie it to those to keep everything looking nice. Internet connection should always be Wi-Fi. If they only have hardwired internet, you could simply provide them a super cheap router to actually use Wi-Fi. Or conversely, and once again, we're talking morally gray areas here. This video is for entertainment purposes only. I've used Wi-Fi from neighboring businesses as well if the original business doesn't have Wi-Fi access. McDonald's, Applebee's, various exercise gyms, lots of places have public Wi-Fi with no password requirements that can be accessed from far enough away at a neighboring store to run a miner. So I use one business's rooftop and another business's Wi-Fi connection. In a case like this, obviously your device will be permanently in relayed mode, but that isn't a big deal. And if you're using another company's internet, who's really going to be checking to ensure that all devices connected to that internet are authorized to connect to it? It's a public Wi-Fi for customers. There's not a password. Anyone can connect to them. Ain't nobody going to care that you're connected. In a worst case situation, they're just going to see that they have a device connected at 2 a.m. in the morning when nobody should be using their internet. But they don't know where this device is or who owns that device. So how are they going to tell me to stop?
Nobody's going to know. They're going to know. How would they know?
So places like restaurants, gyms, hotels, and others can be fantastic locations. Hotels are a huge jackpot since they are usually several stories tall and can get some good elevation on your antennas. You'll just need the authorizing employee to be able to grant you rooftop access, since almost always the roofs of hotels are accessed from inside the building as opposed to outside ladders. The biggest problem with hotels is just make sure the Wi-Fi password is static and isn't tied to your reservation, room number, or otherwise changes for whatever reason. Electronic devices outside obviously aren't ideal, so if you can't get a rack miner designed for the outdoors, you have a little bit of engineering to do. But honestly, you don't need to spend a bunch of money on this stuff. Any sort of plastic container of sufficient size is going to work that has a lid. Drill some holes for cords as necessary, and the lid/cord area is going to leak probably by default. So use something simple like a heavy application of caulk available at any home improvement store to seal up the enclosure and make it waterproof. Now, my devices are located in a relatively temperate climate, so if you live somewhere that gets super hot in the summer, you may have some extra engineering steps involved in order to figure out how to cool your device. But for me, my devices can run year-round with no outside cooling sources. When I tell people that I just leave the devices up there, people often wonder if I'm worried about them getting stolen. Now, I've never had a device stolen, and I probably never will. So first off, when you set up your device, you're connecting it to Bluetooth from your cell phone. That's going to encrypt your device where realistically you are the only person that can use this device. Even if somebody did sneak up there, find it, and steal it, they are not able to plug the device in and use it for themselves. So they're stealing basically a brick because they can't use it. The only thing that they could realistically take is something like my antenna, which, all right, 40, 50 bucks, I'll replace that. But either way, think of it this way. How many people do you think are gonna go on top of a business's rooftop on a yearly basis? Like, nobody's going up there. And if they are going up there, it's some contracted electrician or someone going up to repair something. Ain't nobody from the company itself, the business itself, is ever gonna go up on that rooftop. These contractors are just concerned about doing their job as fast as they can so they can go home. They don't know what this extra stuff is that's sitting up there, nor do they care what that stuff is. But like I said, basically nobody is ever going up on the roof anyway, so your devices should be safe. Now, I do usually mark the location on the Helium map slightly away from the device's true location, just in case other hobbyists get curious driving around town. But like I said, in a worst case scenario, really all they could do is steal an antenna. And if you're climbing up onto a rooftop to steal a $40 device, trust me when I say there's easier things around town that you could steal. And even in a worst case scenario where the device was somehow damaged, stolen, removed, whatever, most of my devices pay for themselves in about 2 to 4 months. So honestly, if after that something were to go missing, I mean, that would suck, but it wouldn't be the end of the world because it had already paid for itself. And my other miners are still making me a ton of money. For me, it's a simple numbers game. If I lose one device, but I still have 60 other devices that are wildly profitable, that's still a massive win. And like I said, I still haven't lost anything yet. If you just get up, get out there, and start asking people if you can set up a device, you might be surprised at how fast you're able to deploy all of your miners in a matter of a weekend or two. After that, you just sit back and collect those sweet HNT rewards every month while sipping margaritas waiting on your next shipment of miners to arrive. If you found this video useful, consider subscribing for more money-making videos, and as always, I'll see you all again next time. Thanks.